Hello, I'm here with Doug to talk about Apple collaborating with the NSA and other things. And the first thing is that one I just mentioned, iPhone triangulation. A Bleeping Computer has an article, along with many other people, based on Kaspersky research. Now, this is why I always used to tell everybody when they asked me what antivirus to use, I told them use Kaspersky because they're technically the best. And in fact, it's been shown that most of the others just steal their virus definitions from Kaspersky. But of course, now that we're basically at war with Russia, it's a bad idea to put Russian software on your machine, especially high privilege software like antivirus. So the political problem is there, but technically they're very good at this. And one of the things Kaspersky does frequently is catch the NSA in the act of hacking everybody, because from their point of view, the NSA is a major adversary, although they call them the equation group to put a thin layer of not admitting it on here. So anyway, that said, this is a spyware campaign, and now it occurs to me, I'm not 100% sure it's Kaspersky that caught him, but I think it is. But the point of this one is this looks very much like Stuxnet. 40 days working together to hack iPhones with a zero-click exploit, so it just takes over your phone without you doing anything, which is, of course, the most valuable malware in the world. These things sell for more than $1 million in the open market. And in particular, so it's got a font vulnerability, an integer overflow, a Safari vulnerability, and a vulnerability using hardware registers. And one of these in particular caught their attention because it uses undocumented internal Apple features, which do not seem to be easy to discover from the outside and strongly suggest that Apple cooperated with them by handing over internal secrets of their products so they can hack in. And that would be very surprising because Apple has shown themselves to be completely resistant to cooperating with the government for hacking. They wouldn't even let the FBI into a dead terrorist's phone.
Right.
They can't prove, of course, that Apple colluded. If Apple didn't collude, then the NSA has really excelled their ability to dig up really complicated, difficult things. And so, this is why the main thing, it's interesting to see. It doesn't prove that it came from the NSA or prove that Apple colluded with them, although that's probably the first part of that is probably very strongly argued for. It just reminds me of something that I have grown used to. When students come to me and claim that their phone has been hacked and they didn't do anything wrong and they followed all security procedures, I no longer tell them they're crazy because that is possible. Ever since Pegasus, if somebody really rich or powerful wants to hack you, they can totally hack you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's becoming more and more common to hear about these things. So anyway, it's a thing to know about. These are targeted attacks. This is not the kind of malware that's going to infect millions of people because this is too expensive. But if you have become significant politically, like a
So
journalist,
high
yeah,
vulnerability targets.
yeah, and this is why Apple keeps adding more features, more security features to turn on your phone. They added another one just a week or two ago. If you're a high security target, you can turn on special high security modes on your iPhone intended to help stop these things. And it's probably a good idea.
Yeah. No, I would agree. So kind of related to this, Sam, there's
Mhm.
been a rumor that's been around for quite a long time that your phone is listening to you and and
Yeah.
interpret or will guide your internet browsing or search history if you're looking for products or
Yeah.
spontaneously suggest products to you.
Yeah. And we talked
Now,
about that exposure a few weeks ago of some company actually coming out openly claiming they could do that.
yeah, so where do you think we stand with that? Obviously, that's not, I don't believe that that's Microsoft or Apple
No, that's
specifically,
why I
or
immediately rebelled when I said that. However, it could easily be the apps. The apps could in principle be doing that.
yes, yeah,
And and in a way, this company advertised it, and then when they made a scandal, they sort of hid the pages, but it's not clear. Probably it does happen to some extent. I remember there was the pizza shop. One of the Caesar's Pizza, one of the pizza shops, it closes on Sunday because they're Christian. And they decided, just as an advertising stunt, hey, let's find out where everybody goes out to eat on Sunday, our normal customers. So they just published a map of like where all thousands of their customers go on Sunday, just naive, without thinking, maybe everybody didn't know that we could track everything they do if they have our app.
yeah,
We'll just put
yeah,
that right here. So they totally can track everything you're doing if you put it on their app. That's why, Kara Swisher will not put TikTok on her main phone. She has a burner phone just for it. And she's
yeah,
He's not wrong about that. I mean, every app you put on your phone basically gives that company access to a whole lot of information about you.
Yeah, yeah,
And this is a question I've been asking for years. Remember, I said, why do you need an app for every company? Why don't you just have a web page for every company and just a browser on your phone? What is this? And this is why, so they can track everything you do.
right.
That's the best. That's pretty
Yeah,
gruesome. I mean, we
yeah.
really should just the privacy advocate should just say, don't have an app at all. Just have a web page. I'll just have a Safari favorite. That's all you need. Why do you need an app?
Yeah, you're right. It's the trackability, and it's also convenience for the user to a certain degree, if you will.
Well, yeah, you can add, but you could put those features on a web page. Features
Yeah,
like buying and paying and stuff.
you could, and then you'd have to have shortcuts on the on your phone to web pages.
Well,
It's
your
not.
browser could just have a favorites page instead of
Yeah,
having a
yeah,
million apps.
yeah,
It
yeah,
would use less memory and everything. Anyway,
yeah.
there's another one I saw here that was pretty surprising. Another one of these things that have been rumored for years. Apparently, in Vietnam, people are actually putting webcams in bedrooms, bathrooms, changing rooms, massage parlors. And now they're putting them up with default passwords and they're getting hacked, and people are now selling the footage and access to those cameras. So this has been another one of those endless rumors is that somebody can see what your camera is putting out. But I think my impression is most people in America don't put cameras in sensitive places like that. Although they do, of course, put it watching over their kids. That's one of the main uses. Anyway, so it's not a technical hack, they say, but they're selling them access to these cameras, and people have
Oh,
verified that they're real. So apparently, in Vietnam, people put them in more sensitive places more often. I don't know why. Perhaps there's some crime problem they have there that they're worried about. I'm not sure.
so I remember hearing a few years ago that can't remember if it was North Korea, South Korea, that they were finding cameras in hotel rooms.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Place
Also Airbnb. People put
or
cameras in,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's entirely believable. They want to see if you're doing something like having a big party or setting fire to the place or something.
Yeah, but the Korean one was to capture footage in a bedroom or a bathroom and
And that
then profit.
seems
Yeah.
like that would only be for blackmail.
What or for profiting.
I guess just selling it to perverts that want to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
maybe that's what's
Yeah.
happening here. Maybe these
Yeah.
people are like revenge porn, OnlyFans kind of playful.
Yeah.
I I guess maybe they put it in deliberately and then sell access to it. But at least it's in people's homes apparently, not in like rental properties. That's why one thing I've heard is people have a special app on their phone to scan for like a lens pointed at you, so you can check out your Airbnb and find out if people are spying on you before you use it. That would seem like the most likely risk for Americans is that
Yeah, but
that
how
could
would you
easily happen.
do that?
Well,
If
they
if
claim to
if
have apps that can somehow spot shiny bits that look like lenses. I don't know if it's true. That also look on the Wi-Fi network and things like that. I guess you could scan your Wi-Fi network with Nmap and see if you can find a webcam, that kind of thing.
yeah, you could do an nmap scan, but if it's hardwired,
That's right.
yeah, yeah. So
Well,
you're right. You'd have to have a bright light source and look for a shiny lens or reflection.
yeah, and I think that's more or less what there's an app that claims to do that, but I don't know how accurate it is. But
Uh,
certainly, I think that's the main
Yeah,
privacy risk. I mean, I would hope anybody knows not to put cameras in sensitive parts of their home, and at least to put some kind of reasonable security on it, like a non-default password, and perhaps limit the accessibility to the internet.
right. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, but most people don't. That's why I mean I'm now studying operational technology security, and it really is horrible. All the current industry protocols, the main ones are Modbus and DNP3, and they're unencrypted. They have no authentication at all because they date from like the 70s and the 90s. And so all automation, all heavy equipment automation is completely vulnerable, and you have to protect it with a device on the outside, like a VPN concentrator, but of course, many people don't.
Right. I've worked with Modbus in the past, and you're right. I've seen passwords that are hard coded into firmware that cannot be changed.
Well, I'm the Modbus I'm looking at doesn't even have the capacity for a password at all. Just physical
Yeah,
access is all you need. Remember, that's the way Cisco routers used to be. They had the aux port, which you would connect right to the
right.
phone switch, and there'd be a PBX, just a number, which gives you access to the router, no password or anything. that the knowledge of that number was considered sufficient authorization.
Yeah.
The way things
Yeah.
were in like the 70s and 80s, but and the problem with infrastructure, durable infrastructure, is we're still using stuff from decades old.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's still working. And as Caitlin brought up a while back, that the Navy put up a satellite and they
Right.
forgot to put an off switch with it.
Well, of course,
And
because back then it was the same thing. Nobody figured they would have access to the radio towers to reach the satellite unless it's us. So we don't need any more security.
right. And who's using it now?
Now you can rent satellite base stations from Amazon, just like virtual machines.
I
Anybody
see.
can just easily get access to satellite radio.
Yeah.
So,
Incredible, huh? But
well,
who's
this is
you?
why you
Who,
have to this is why you have to do future proofing your network. You have to think about not only the current situation, but what about 10 years or 20 years from now? And most people only think about like the next quarter.
right. Right. Yeah. So do you have another story?
No, let's go back to you with the
No,
event.
you. All right. So I have one that I just picked up on, and Zuckerberg is spending $100 million on one of the Hawaiian islands to build a 5,000 square foot uh, survival shelter
Oh,
with
I didn't know
bomb-proof.
Zuck was
Oh,
Zuck on this
Zuck,
too.
yeah.
I thought it was sort of the paranoid lunatics. Well, go ahead.
Well, is Zuckerberg one of them?
Apparently,
Okay.
survivalists. They called these guys survivalists when I was a kid. They would
Yeah,
have like a
yeah.
drum full of wheat and a hole in the ground with a cement slab on top.
Well, it's interesting. We're in the San Francisco Bay Area, and my wife lived in the East Bay, out towards Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill, in that direction. And it's surprising to find that a number of homes out there, including one she lived in for a while, had a bomb shelter. So, that's remnant back from the 50s. But in the Bay Area, there were a lot of homes that had those, that people installed those.
Boy, I wonder if that applies to modern nuclear war. I mean, I'm thinking of duck and cover in the 50s. If you had a bomb shelter you could hide in for like a week, would that actually do you any good?
I,
I
I
guess
don't know. I don't think so.
I guess maybe if you were like in one of the suburbs in San Francisco got nuked, that might give you enough time to like survive all the fallout settles or something. They did recommend it at various times when planning for nuclear war, like in the Reagan years, I think came back in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it was like in the 50s.
Yeah. But I
There,
think
there,
now the
yeah.
survivalists in my hometown planned not so much for nuclear war, but for just the end of society, where roving of bands of people will be attacking you to steal everything because the government has collapsed and there's famine and stuff. And I think there's a whole lot of that coming back. I think there's a big survivalist movement connected to the alt-right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. We're back on gold. Make sure that you bury gold throughout your yard.
Yeah, and I
Make
think those
a
are people that
map.
just
Yeah.
expect there to be another civil war over
Yeah.
Trump, which is uh, not completely crazy. I'd say that makes as much sense as expecting a nuclear war under Reagan. Both of these are in are less than 10%, but not zero.
Yeah. Well, what I think is interesting about Zuckerberg's place is he has a bomb-proof door, but he has an escape hatch. So,
Yeah, well, you need one. That's
well,
part.
yeah, but you,
Then hopefully
well,
it's secured.
yeah, hopefully it's secured. But here you have a bomb-proof door, but nobody's going to bomb through the escape hatch and come
Yeah.
in through the back door.
Well, you plan for this. I've seen it in the movies. I read a story about a couple of years ago about a guy who was a consultant. And
Yeah.
they called him in to go to some special meeting with the billionaires, and they wanted advice on how to build their island and such. And one of the questions they asked is, well, we're going to have an island. We're going to have like a bunch of armed guards protecting us. But how do we know our armed guards won't turn against us? And he said, you guys would be better off rather than planning to survive the disaster you're creating, to actually start treating your workers better to avoid that disaster. And they didn't want to hear that. This reminds me of when they hired me to be the AI consultant. I said, my advice is don't use AI for this job. And they're like, no, 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 we don't want to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
that,
I don't know. So Zuckerberg and from what I understand, other billionaires
oh,
and people that are in that range of wealth
oh, and
are
a gang of them,
planning. Yeah.
here in California. They're buying
Yeah.
up land in
Yeah.
California to make like the hideaway survivalist utopia.
Yeah. Up in the gold country, right? Between the Bay Area roughly, or in the Sierra Nevada hills, in the
Yeah,
foothills. Yeah. So they're calling it the event. So what
yeah.
the event is not clear, but it's referred to as the event.
Well, I remember you could
So we'll
argue.
see.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess if you're rich enough, you worry about these things.
Yeah, yeah. And if
But
your prophecy, if you call it the event, when
yeah.
the event occurs, then you can label it that that's the event.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I read an article years ago because of Steve Gibson's podcast. Somebody advertised our backup solution guarantees 15 nines of reliability. And I'm like, 15 nines? That's insane. So I looked up what is the probability of our civilization being destroyed in the next 100 years? And that's like regarded to be 0.1%. And I said, there, shut up. Nobody can have more than 3 nines of reliability for anything at all. And that's what they're thinking. Of course, they expect to be the one lucky group that's so rich they survived this catastrophe. I wonder if historical analogies would help you here. Like you think about Pompeii, I don't think the rich people escaped. I wonder.
No,
I think the
no,
only
they
thing rich
couldn't have.
people get to escape is something that comes on kind of slowly, like a storm or a war, where you can tell when it's time to flee, hide your jewels in your dress and run across the border.
Yeah, but you can't necessarily always escape with your wealth.
That's true, but I guess, yeah, I guess you could make a risk analysis and say there's a
Yeah,
possibility you could escape to your hideaway. And if you've watched Doctor Strangelove enough times, this will make sense to you. But I think the rest of us think this is insane.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Anyway, I'm one of the little people.
here's the real question though. So let's say the event occurs,
Yeah.
and Zuckerberg is going to have what? Let's say 6 months food supply. Then what? What if his solar panels breaks and he can't have clean water anymore?
Well, realistically, just like any disaster planning, you plan for a certain duration of disaster. Like you have backup power at the hospital for like 2 days. But if it's longer
Right.
than that, you'll actually won't make it without help from the outside. And it'd be the same thing here. You have to assume it's not like an asteroid ending all life on the planet. It's something like a bomb that hits, and then after some time, there will be civilization again.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The question is, what is that duration, or what is that
Right, right. I mean, I think
time?
if
Yeah.
you're going to have like an extinction event that will make the planet uninhabitable for 100 years, then probably there's nothing you can do about that.
Exactly.
But you can plan for less terrible things like a political upheaval where there's a period of civil unrest and then things calm down again.
Yeah. We'll see. So I'll see you at the event, Sam.
Yeah, yeah.
How's that?
Hopefully none of that will happen. That's what I'm betting on.
Yeah. You,
Although
you know,
I do often think about fleeing the country if it turned into a dictatorship. But I would just move to another country. I don't need like a bomb shelter or anything. I think if
yeah.
America turns into a fascist dictatorship, then I could go to Canada or New Zealand or something, and it'd probably be okay.
Well, I don't know if you remember, you were in the Bay Area about 10 years ago. In 2011, there was a guy, Harold Camping, who happened to run a radio station called Family Radio, Christian radio station out of Oakland. And Harold predicted and went so far as to guarantee or say that the Bible guarantees that it was the end of the world, and or it was the second coming of Christ on May 21st, 2011,
Oh,
if I remember correctly. So Harold spent over $600 million to put up billboards, over almost just over $500 million. And the best one was, there was one right as you're leaving San Francisco, headed to Oakland on the Bay Bridge, as you one of the last billboards that you saw. On the other side of the freeway was for the day after, it was the end of the year, end of the world party was going to occur in Oakland on the following day.
oh,
So here we had the end of the world along with the end of the world party. Guess
yeah,
which one survived, or which one occurred?
yeah, yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
Would have been a
yeah,
fun party, I guess. Yeah.
yeah,
The Seventh Day Adventists, I think, have been predicting the end of the world like every 2 years forever, and nobody ever
yeah.
cares that it doesn't.
Well, if I remember, this is just one of many, but there were the Millerites, I believe, in New
Yeah,
York.
yeah.
Is
There's
that
tons of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know
That-
what's interesting? There's a psychological rule here. When you predict the end of the world and it doesn't happen, your cult just gets stronger, which is just like Trump. I mean, every time he does something horrible, like get caught bragging about assaulting women, people say this is the end of him. No, it makes him stronger. And now that they're throwing him off the ballot in Maine and Colorado, that just makes him stronger. You know, it's
yeah,
there's something
yeah.
about psychology where
I-
resistance.
Interesting, yeah, interesting human psychology going
Yeah,
on there.
yeah, some kind of public humiliation, because I think the people that have already paid something to show that they're in your group now have to double down on that. That's the easier move than admitting they were wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
I got a
You
couple
got
more
another
here.
story for us.
I do have a couple more. So there's one from
Okay.
Politico. So which is really pretty interesting. I've heard a lot about North Korea's hacking cryptocurrency, but they're taking it a lot more seriously. And Ann Neuberger, the government, the head of CISA, I think, is talking about how the Biden administration's had it with this. North Korea is funding their military through stealing cryptocurrency, and they're beginning to fight back by hacking the cryptocurrency exchanges and shutting them down and shutting down the mixers. And they managed to intercept some of the money. But it really is impressive. You know, North Korea is very powerful cyber adversary, and they say they have now performed many supply chain attacks, just like what the Russians did with SolarWinds. The North Korea has compromised the supply chain of product of companies to poison their products, and the thing they probably could do anything they wanted to anybody, but the only thing they want to do is steal cryptocurrency, and that's what has saved us. They're inside a lot of companies, but they're not interested in taking down our critical national infrastructure. They just want to steal crypto right now, which is
So it's
shooting fish in a barrel.
yeah, so it's a money issue right now.
Right, right. They're funding their government primarily with stolen money. More than half of their entire military budget comes from stolen cryptocurrency. They've done all the really big hacks that steal like hundreds of millions of dollars. And the US government regards it as a major national security issue to try to choke off that money. And so they're beginning to shut down the crypto mixers and exchanges and penetrate them from the US side to try to stop that.
I see.
This is why, remember, I think it was Elizabeth Warren and a few others uh, high in the administration are saying we really should get rid of cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is enabling terrorism and corrupting the world. And this is a stronger argument on that side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
The real
yeah,
banks have money in electronic form, but they secure it better. Crypto exchanges are typically put up by, crazy tech bros that just make some garbage software, isn't secure at all. And then they got hundreds of millions of dollars in there that people can just steal.
yeah, yeah,
So anyway, it's interesting to see how far the North Koreans have come.
yeah. We'll see. Well, that was also going on with Russia and Ukraine, right? Cryptocurrency.
I think to some
Oh,
extent.
oh, yeah,
I think there
yeah,
they actually, the Russians actually attack infrastructure as part of a military action there. So that's more the
yeah,
classic cyber threat we've been worried about.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, and then the last one, just to cheer up your holiday, Amazon's going to put ads in their videos now. And apparently all five major streaming platforms now inject ads in the videos, even when you paid for the service. So
Oh, really?
yeah, I've noticed my life is now all full of ads again. YouTube put ads in and you can't get rid of them. And Amazon puts ads in. Now the Amazon ads, at least you'll be able to get rid of them if you're an Amazon Prime member by paying an extra $3 a month. And I might do that. I don't know. Of course, another way to look at it just encourages me not to watch any videos and do more work. But anyway,
So you're paying for Prime
yeah,
and you get the ads. So you have to pay Prime Plus to
that's
have
right.
the ads removed.
That's right.
So let's see, Netflix has gone to the same model.
Right.
You,
Everybody,
you,
all five of the
yeah,
top streams have now all
yeah.
gone to the same model. So I think what's going on is just sort of belt tightening. This is what Cory Doctorow calls the enshittification of the internet. All the services that used to be good, like Google. Google used to be great. Now the whole first page is all ads, pretty much. And
Yeah,
every service is going through this sort of inevitable decline where they get greedier and greedier and lower the quality of the service more and more. And
yeah. Well, that's YouTube and YouTube Plus, right?
yeah, I guess I could be paying for. I'm not paying for YouTube. I don't want to. I'm not paying for any of these streaming. You only have Prime, and
Yeah. Well, it's been the war of the online streaming service,
yep,
and what do you have? Paramount Plus
right. And
with
Disney Plus is
Peacock and
apparently a hit.
Hulu.
And people say Disney Plus is the best deal. I don't know. I don't have it. If you have
I don't
kids,
know
you're in the
about
league.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but a bunch of
Yeah.
these. So I think a lot of people pay for a bunch of different streaming services.
Yeah, I think what we're at is these companies trying to make a profit while they're losing money. So the
Yeah.
only way they can start making a profit is to put the other services out of business so that they're the survivor.
Well,
Because right now, I think what you have is it's too much diluted right now because nobody's going to pay $100 a month to YouTube, plus Amazon, plus Disney, plus these others. And
well,
the range for these is $10 to about $80 a month.
yeah, and I think younger generation ignores all of them and just watches TikTok.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
you argue they're all kind of dying industries, sort of in the struggling to squeeze the last drop of out of something that's almost empty.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So we'll see.
Yep, we'll see how this goes.
One thing that's certainly come true in the last decade or so is that the real innovation is on television, not in movies. I hadn't looked at TV in like 20 years, and then I read articles that said that's where the real actors are going, that's where the real good stuff is. Movies is not where it is anymore, and that seems to be true. But I'm only watching things that are completely finished, like 10 years old on Amazon Prime, where I can see the whole thing.
Yeah. So
Watch anything current.
when's the last time you went to a movie theater?
Oh, I went to a movie maybe a month ago. I saw Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Okay, so that was a rerun.
And I know, and I didn't bother to see Oppenheimer or Barbie. They say they were good, but they're apparently very good, but they're not good enough to make me go to a movie.
Yeah, I went to see Oppenheimer and I saw it at, I think at a 70 millimeter
Yeah.
theater. And then I went to what do they call it? The what do they call the Supermax?
Yeah. Everything's sort of that way these days. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I went to another theater where it was Dolby surround sound. It was one of the best theaters you could go to. I
Mhm.
thought it was terrible. I'd
Oh,
rather watch it at home on an iPad.
yeah. Well, I mean, the movie
That
theater,
was my experience.
I know. I mean, I used to go to movies a lot, but the real benefit was the bike ride to the movie theater. The movie was just a place to take a break. Um,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think our home entertainment systems have gotten so good. And I think COVID made this all a giant leap forward. People said, going and sitting in a movie theater with 1,000 people coughing around me is just not a good habit. I should just watch it at home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it for this one. I have another one on
Okay.
Tuesday.
All right. We'll see you again on Tuesday.
All right. Find the stop button. I'm unable to find the stop button. All right. One more try. There it is.